What is your position on the city's current tax structure and budget? And would you consider raising taxes and/or reprioritizing spending in any way?
So I think Johnson City's done a great job of having a good balanced budget. It's required by the state, so it's really not an option. So we have to have a balanced budget. I think it's one of the good things about Tennessee. I also think that we've done a great job of putting excess money in a rainy day fund and really have a big balance. But at the same time, inflation's, the city's feeling it just like everybody else. And finding a way to keep taxes as low as possible and keep taxes low is very important to me. And for me, a big way to do that is really addressing our vacant buildings downtown. I think in areas that the city's already spent the money for infrastructure, fire, police, water, sewer, stormwater, that money's been spent downtown and kind of on the inner city, and improving vacant lands, getting underperforming buildings back on the tax rolls, and creating a lot more kind of tax revenue that way is a great way to grow our revenue, but kind of still maintain our tax rate and keep it low. I think, there's a lot of opportunity there, and the city's invested a lot of money downtown, and so now I think it's up to private developers to build stuff and be paying taxes on it.
I feel like the city has gotten to a cycle of tax and spend. We've been increasing our taxes, but then we've been taking on new debt obligations last year, and this year we had a $4.6 million deficit. And even with the increased taxes, it's not enough to keep all the things that we want to buy in the city. And that's going to mean the city is going to need to cut back on our spending. There's a lot of easy ways to cut. I think we need to make all public art projects privately funded. We spent $30,000 to paint puppy dogs on a wall. We spent $250,000 for the butterflies under the Roan Street underpass. Again, we've been putting public funds to private individuals in form of incentives to get people to move here. We've been investing in green energy options such as F-150 Lightnings for our water department. There's talk now about our garbage trucks going to alternative fuels. We need to scale back on some of these nice to have type initiatives and again focus on our essential services.
I think reprioritize the taxes that we are receiving. I think our money has been spent on too many things that are not necessarily good for everybody. They're high-end ideas, they're the bells and whistles, but if you've got bells and whistles and no brakes, what's going to happen? You're going to wreck. And I'm afraid that that's what it needs to be. Yes, we do need to probably raise taxes, but I think we also need to reprioritize where we spend our tax money. I think we're wasting a lot of it on things that are really not benefiting everybody in the city. It's only a select few. And I think that again is the sustainability. You can't have a city if you're not working with everybody in the city and you're bringing everybody in the city along with you. So it is important that, yes, taxes are a fact of life. And if we want to get things done and to have a good city that's supportive of all the people, yeah, we need to have the taxes. But I think we also need to be very circumspect in how we spend those tax dollars.
The city collects most of its revenue from two primary sources, and that's property taxes and sales taxes. One is a very stable revenue source, and the other is a more volatile revenue source. Now, we have been very fortunate in recent years in that sales tax revenues have remained robust, but we have to be sensitive to the fact that a huge part of our revenue is potentially subject to the sort of whims of up and down economies. And so it requires that we, on the spending side of things, be judicious or conservative in our spending to ensure that we have that rainy day fund so that when those economic downturns come, we aren't put in a position where we're unable to continue to properly provide essential city services to our residents. I would say that in the 8 years that I've served on the City Commission, we've had a balanced budget each of those 8 years. But that's only part of the story. A budget is the roadmap of where you're going. But the audit and the financial statements at the close of the year is really like photographs of where you've been. And as much as we've adopted balanced budgets, all 8 years, because it's the law, we have also engaged in what I would consider very conservative management, in that each of those 8 years we have underspent our revenue and have made net contributions to the city's fund balance, which is essentially that rainy day fund that is so important to positioning the city for those downturns in the economy that we know will happen. We don't know when. I have always viewed the city budget as a policy document and a priority document. It really tells a story about what matters to us and what we are pursuing. And as a city commissioner, my emphasis has always been on the safe, consistent, reliable delivery of core services: water, sewer, garbage, first response, medical education, et cetera, the various things that occur across a whole range of city departments. And I think when you look at the results that we've had in Johnson City, those investments have paid dividends. We have an ISO 1 in our fire department, which means that residents pay less for their insurance. We have water quality tests that consistently have us in the 98, 99, 100% range. And so we're fortunate to have those things. I mean, when you think about the major weather event we just had 2 weeks ago, it just used to have to think about raining and downtown Johnson City would flood. Do you know what didn't happen when the hurricane hit? Downtown Johnson City didn't flood. A stormwater mitigation plan worked, and it didn't just work, it worked in a once in 500 year kind of weather event. And so city government may be the last place government is really working for the residents and working for the citizens. When you're reprioritizing, we obviously need to make some adjustments in any given budget to reflect how circumstances have changed. I mean, 5 years ago, we did not have growth as one of our top concerns. In fact, we had the opposite of growth as a top concern. And so budgets naturally are going to change to reflect that. One of the things we've done in the last 2 years is made a significant investment in our police department by way of increasing its force capacity. Our budget had been based on a number of sworn officers in the 150, 155 sworn officer range for basically 20 years. And if you looked at our population growth, while that force remained relatively steady, our population had grown. And so that's an example where we obviously have to make some reprioritization to reflect that the needs of the community have changed, and the budget needs to reflect that.
Without having privilege to the budget, looking right at it and seeing what it is, it's kind of hard to answer that question completely. But I don't think I would ever be in favor of raising more taxes. I mean, we've all seen what's happened with the property tax that everybody's complaining about in the last year. And I don't see that raising taxes would be a great option for things unless we just absolutely had to have it. It seems like our current system has done well, and the commissioners that have been on here the last few years have done a good job balancing the budget from what I understand.
It is good that we have a well-balanced budget for our city. Being in a city where there has been no effort to increase taxes over the years, it has caught up with us, along with inflation and other economic impacts and drivers. It is not my intention or hope to ever increase taxes, but I do know that in order to provide a proper infrastructure and services to our citizens, it does cost, but wanting to do those within a reasonable value and also making sure we have the funds to do so. I believe that the spending priorities are in line as we, as a commission and city leadership, worked hard to make sure that we're first taking care of our citizens and providing them the best services. Also taking care of things that we see as challenges. And so I believe that our priorities are in line, and I hope that we continue that practice.
I think in the current environment, with inflation, with increasing housing costs, raising taxes is probably not the strategy for a municipality like us. That means that we're going to have to reprioritize some of how we're spending money. I would want to look into some of our bigger expenditures, specifically the policing department. I think some of those funds, because we also currently have a lot of homeless, and I think we're unfairly tasking the police force with having to take care of that problem for us. I think if we were to reprioritize some funds, we could take care of some housing costs or some housing issues. We could get some homeless people off the street. We could get them a more stable life. That's going to be better for our whole city culture. I'd also like to see more funds directed towards our public transit. I want to say about 80% of our funds currently come in from federal and state grants for our public transit. It means that we have buses that aren't running during time periods for working class people to get to and from work. I'd like to see those hours expanded. I'd like to see a bit more infrastructure investment for biking and walkability within reason. If we're going to have to repair a sidewalk anyway, let's repair it right and make sure that it doesn't terminate abruptly, make sure it is wide enough for pedestrian traffic. And that might mean reassessing some funds. But like I said, I think we're putting an undue burden on some of our city departments. And if we were to move some money around, we could come up with better solutions for these issues and alleviate some of the strain on our departments that have a whole host of other initiatives and projects and services that they're providing for us.
I think we're doing a great job, and in the state of Tennessee, we have to have a balanced budget, and we have done that easily every year of the last 8 years I've been on the City Commission, and it's a requirement, so that makes it easier. I don't think I would raise taxes. We did because of a school that we needed. We need help from the county on that we haven't had as much as we should have had, but we raised them for that, and I don't see us having to raise taxes. We've got a lot of people visiting Johnson City. There's a lot of money being spent, a lot of tax money being collected. So hopefully we can just keep doing what we're doing as far as attracting outside people to our outdoor areas.
When it comes to taxes, my position currently is, as a small business owner, I take personal interest in who are we taxing and how much. If we're offering tax breaks to large corporations that are coming in and only offering minimum wage jobs, I don't know if that's the kind of encouragement and breaks we need to make, because those are good revenue streams through that kind of tax. And with the growth that we're demonstrating, I don't know that we have to provide artificial encouragement in that form. I think small businesses, the kind of unique businesses that I talked about earlier that make Johnson City unique, those are the folks who need that tax break. If someone comes in to establish a new business inside Johnson City, maybe we don't have to charge them taxes right off the bat. It's not a lot coming in to begin with, and I think that if we relook how we budget, if we relook who we are taxing, we can encourage those small businesses that make us unique by giving them some of those breaks. As far as the budget is concerned, my focus on education especially, the budget only it talks about encouraging and continuing with the best-in-class education, K through 12. The only thing that's currently addressing that is rebuilding town acres. I think we need to look really hard at, again, where the people are coming in, where the new people live, and are we best serving all the kids that are coming in with them? Is it time to put in a new school, or is it time to hire more teachers? Because that growth rate doesn't seem to be reflected in our number of teachers and how much we're paying those teachers. So I would want to personally focus on the educators as much as the education location. I think rebuilding town acres is necessary. I think the focus on the infrastructure and improving Wi-Fi and all of the modern amenities that are necessary for educating our kids is important. But I think we also need to make sure that we have the number of educators and the quality of educators and attract them by paying them well.